My name is Jackson Miller. For clarity, I am not related to the former delegate Jackson Miller from Manassas, who is finally out of his position running our correctional system. Um, Blessings to him, I guess, for his next chapter, but we're reclaiming the name 1 year at a time. And I'm really excited because I recently joined the team as the field director for the Yes campaign for redistricting in the Commonwealth of Virginia. It's Virginians for Fair Elections. And why the focus on elections? Because right now, for these midterms, our free and fair elections are not free, nor are they fair, right? You cannot claim fair elections in our 250th year of democracy when Donald Trump is able to pick up the phone and call either Greg Abbott or any other MAGA governor and have them redraw their maps so they can rig these congressional midterms and create a majority that is accountable to the whims of Trump, not to the voters and our voices. And so we, at this moment in time, if we choose to step back and not respond, we do face a real risk of having our voices diminished in Congress, whether that's if more and more MAGA-controlled states fall in line, like Trump's, best frenemy Ron DeSantis in Florida, or the Voting Rights Act continues to be gutted. We have to respond, but we have to respond not only responsibly, but effectively. And so what this amendment does, that's made its way through the General Assembly. So now we are simply just waiting for ballot language and an official election date, which would be April 21st. This amendment ultimately gives voters, not politicians and not Donald Trump, the final say to level the playing field and restore fairness in these midterms. It allows us to go forward with mid-decade redistricting, while also ensuring that after the next census in 2030, our bipartisan redistricting process resumes its work. So we have to be clear when we are talking to our neighbors, when we are talking to our colleagues, our families, whoever. We have to be clear about how exceptional this moment is and the urgency of taking action, the response that Democrats are taking, and we have to be clear about the safeguards that we're putting into place that are quite literally embedded into this proposed amendment. So again, acknowledging the urgency of this moment, being transparent about the response, and being honest about the safeguards. Because quite frankly, y'all, we've already been seeing a lot of misinformation or frankly lies from our opposition saying that Democrats just want to burn the house down when really we are protecting ourselves, right? I do want to acknowledge that, yes, there's a lot of moving parts, things are moving fast, but frankly, we're already feeling the impact of MAGA-controlled gerrymandering across the country. Remember the big ugly bill that passed? That passed by what, 3 votes or something like that? You could argue, you can thank North Carolina Republicans for that, right? Because despite electing all Democrats statewide last year, Republicans gerrymandered enough seats to secure a Republican supermajority from that delegation to get those votes, right? And so my health surgery, she's freaking out right now. And it's really just, excuse my language, it's really pissing me off. So this is not a thought exercise. This is not a what if moment. The harm is already here. And I find it, I'm excited and I feel as if it's taking action. And I want to thank Fairfax Dems, specifically the Latino Caucus, because it's through your leadership, your initiative, and frankly, your hustle that really delivered historic margins that not only set records for our most diverse slate of statewide electeds in the governor's mansion, our lieutenant governor, and our attorney general, but also frankly, were the deciding margins to flip a record number of seats. And elect the bluest House of Delegates in several decades, in at least a generation. That's not by accident. I saw the work of particularly this group every day when now Governor Spanberger made her way up to Northern Virginia. This group hustled, but hustled in a way that translated to action and translated to votes and translated to a win. This is what happens when we win. We can actually do something, right? Don't have to stick to talking points. We don't have to stick to boilerplate quotes for a fundraising text or a fundraising email asking us for 50 more cents or a dollar more by some random deadline. We can actually make a difference in the lives for our families and for our neighbors. This right here, this upcoming special election referendum, this sets the tone not just for Virginia, but for the rest of the country in these midterms, that Democrats are ready to step up and Democrats are ready to take action. So what are we seeing now? And then I'm more than happy to just take any questions. I'm sorry I haven't been eyeing the chat. Like I said, we have moved this language through the General Assembly. And so now we're just waiting for the final call with the appropriations that our General Assembly passed to hold this election for both we know the election date will be April 21st. So now we just want to make sure that we have all the early voting information and whatnot. We do expect the 45 days to be intact. And so that honestly really all it puts early voting in early March potentially. So this is a GOTV style special election, right? Without any sort of precedent. This is April, no candidate at the top of the ballot for a constitutional referendum on an 80-day timeline statewide. For those of you, I know several people here drove down when now Secretary Candy Munden King was in that special election in Woodbridge. If you drove down, we probably met, but as an alum of her special election in the cold winter of 2021, and an alum of now Congresswoman Jennifer McClellan, our first Black Congresswoman from Richmond, we know that anything can happen and that margins matter. So we want to make sure that we are turning out every vote. And what that means, especially for Latino engagement, is we've invested significant money and resources to making sure that we are elevating both digital creators and also making sure that we are prioritizing Spanish language and frankly, as applicable, maybe even Portuguese, but Spanish language digital digital content. We've also dedicated a separate mail track for Hispanic and Latino voters, not just treating our constituencies as the weekend before an election you hear from us the first time. No, we want to start that engagement as early as possible. So your mailboxes will be flooded regardless. And then finally, once we have the ballot language and once we know the election details, we already have translations lined up for both Spanish and then also various other languages just to make sure that, again, we just don't take anything for granted. The way we lose this thing is if we react and if we stay on the defense and we don't keep moving, right? We just do not have the runway for that. Luckily, as Virginia Democrats writ large, we are made for this. We have elections every year. Y'all in Fairfax are coming off of what, like 12 special elections in like 3 months, right? Like from congressional to school board to all these random delegates, stepping away from their seats. This group in particular is built for this. And so I'm really excited to make sure that we give 157% to make sure that we are protecting a path that gets Democrats elected to Congress so that we decide the majority, not Donald Trump. So I will yield back. Happy to, what I can do is I can respond to a couple questions in the chat. And then if it's all right with you, Madam Chair, I can respond to people who are graciously raising their hand, like Mr. Fernando and who else? And then we can go from there.
And multi-sig, yes.
Yes, yeah, of course, right. So there's a few questions in the chat. And of course, I'll drop my contact information. I'll drop my cell phone as well as my email for this campaign. It's never too early, never too late. Bob asks a really good question. Bob, it's good to see you again. We've connected on an eclectic set of efforts. Bob's question is, what effect does the recent court decision on redistricting have on Virginia redistricting this year? So Bob, I believe you're referring to that injunction from the Tazewell court. So recently, right, I mean, let's just call it what it is. Republicans found themselves a very friendly judge who ran for House of Delegates a couple decades ago as a Republican. And they were definitely shopping a case around to try invalidating this effort writ large based on some procedural steps. For us, frankly, it doesn't affect us, right? We know just tactically, right? When sowing misinformation and confusion around this is the name of the game, you're going to exploit or weaponize every step and every lever you can in the process. And so, again, if they run the clock down and force us to kind of like step back, that's how we lose, right? So on a campaign side, it doesn't affect us at all because it's really targeting the legislative process. We're just keeping very laser focused on April 21st, because regardless of, well, actually, no. Well, yeah, so we're laser focused on April 21st. Luckily, yesterday, Democratic leadership in the General Assembly filed an appeal with a request for an expedited hearing with the Virginia Court of Appeals. So that would be the next step that we're looking out for. So luckily, that's already in process. But again, from a campaign side, it just frankly doesn't affect us. And that's not coming from a place of, oh, it doesn't matter. It just, it's something that we're keeping an eye on, obviously, and we all should be keeping an eye on it. But we only have 80 something days. But that's a great question. And then, Bob, I'll get to your question for follow-up, and then I'll speak to Madam Chair's question. So we do have an opposition. So Bob's question is, can you speak to the Republican-driven website, domain platform? Yeah, we knew from the get-go there would be opposition. Our opposition is Virginians for Fair Maps. Again, right, with the strategy of sowing confusion, picking a name that's very similar to Virginians for Fair Elections. We know, right, ever since the special session was called in October, Republicans have been complaining about maps and lines and, nitpicking at everything. So that's just going to be their name, the name of the game. Why this is so important to, what is it? Why this is such an important question is, one, right, like maps obviously have like saturated the headlines, right? And like I myself have made like 20 different maps, just out of my own hobby. But what you see on that website is blatant disinformation to get rid of the bipartisan redistricting commission that we all voted on, or that was voted in 2020. And that's a lie, just plain and simple. So yeah, so Republicans, our opposition is trying to sow confusion every step of the way. And so that's why we're really focusing on ensuring that our free and fair elections are intact, because at the end of the day, this is about more than a map or a line. It's more than a 10-1 iteration and a 10-1 aesthetic, or however you name it. It's about our quality of life. It's about making sure our public schools are funded. It's about making sure that ESL programs stay intact. It's about making sure that we have access to quality jobs and affordable housing and childcare, and frankly, a dignified day-to-day existence. Because that is what's at stake at the end of the day. So yeah, and then I'll talk about like ways to get involved, but I also want to just maybe take a breath and stop rambling for a sec, and pass the mic. So Mr. Fernando and then Miss Cecilia. Yeah, I'd love to take your questions.
My question was the one on how do we help? What is the actual plan for turning out the vote for the referendum? Are we running rallies? Are we running phone banks? Or what are we doing?
Yep. All right, cool. Well, that's my favorite question. So I appreciate you saving some time. Yeah. So what is it on the field side, right? And I'm a field guy, like I'm a one-trick pony, so to speak. there's going to be an aggressive ground game. I think once a way forward, especially like around like when maps should be released, which should be any day now, we're going to have a series of statewide like grassroots messaging trainings just to make sure that everyone's questions are cleared. And then we're going to immediately pivot to a cadence of phone banks, text banks, and also canvassing door to door. There will be like other like entities like getting involved just to make sure we're having conversations face to face. But we want this ground game to be very aggressive. I'm projecting up to several 100,000 or even like 1 million doors being knocked between now and April 21st. That's the floor of what I'd like to project for this program. And then it won't just be me, right? So we have a lean staff coming in over the next couple weeks. So once they come live, I'll make sure that Chair and everyone in this group has the contact information for their person covering various parts of Fairfax County. So that way they can plug you in accordingly. There'll probably be a series of like town halls, maybe rallies as well. And so when those dates come live, I'll also make sure to drop our Mobilize page, just so everyone here can get real-time updates when those events do come on the books. Yeah, Miss Cecilia, floor is yours.
Hello, Jackson. Great to meet you. You can call me Ceci. That's why I ask her, because Cecilia is when my mom is mad because I didn't make my bed. So I saw, well, my 4-year-old is next to me, so you may hear some expressions. And I told him that I was going to speak. Really quick. Yeah, you can have that orange. So I'm originally from Peru. I just married and some others. I see Marta and Leonel. I have met them before. Awesome group. I'm Peruvian. I just got my citizenship this year. And yes, it's the year of elections. Let them come. And, first of all, I really appreciate the work and learning that it was like the initiative that you guys were pushing into the assembly that got this, that got us to this point. I really, something that you said really struck a chord on me, which is we need to talk in Spanish and Portuguese and really involve community, and not only because they are, and I'm going to say it like customer, like voters, but because we care about them really, and we want to get their oh yeah, thank you. But so I have 2 questions aligned to what I think it was Fernando, right? I think we have met, maybe not, but hi. Along those lines, more specifically to, again, events and how can we be involved in this more bilingual events? That's one. The other one that I have encountered, and this happened to me when I was on my way to the election for the 17th district that I did, and I was walking, and then I saw a group of Latino men. And I said, "Oh, hey, have you guys voted?" But because I put that information on my HOA Facebook group, like I was like, "Hello, people, go vote," posting and stuff. And they're like, "No, we don't vote." And especially how things are nowadays for us Latinos, and for many, well, not for us, for society. People may be scared to vote. People may be thinking, yeah, I can vote, but is it going to change anything? So I think something really important is to build a message of, it doesn't matter. There's different ways that why are we doing this? What you said? Because we're setting the structure. You want to say hi? We want to set a structure that makes things fair, and it's not fair it's fair for all of us. Like, so if Republicans do a great job, cool, like they will be elected. But even for people who are not citizens, they may know someone who are. So we need to make those connections and something really interesting happened with that conversation, because I said, "Oh, you didn't vote? Oh, okay, no." They didn't tell me their status, obviously, like whatever. And I said, "No, I know. Yeah, I'm also scared. Like things are really bad." And I said, "Let me share some information with you, because in the Fairfax Library you have resources for immigrants." So I shared that. There were like 5 of them. At the end, I only end up with one of the guys, and I said, "No, I know. I we didn't say any status of all, but you get that understanding, like this is scary. This is freaking scary. People is disappearing and all that." And he stayed. And I said to him, "See, now we are superheroes. Everyone has a superpower. So I'm going to give you this information. This is your superpower. Now your mission is give it, like I learned this in campaign votes, give it to 3 people. And you have to do the same with them. You ask them, okay, you guys give it to 3 people, because you share the good things, right? So do it." So again, I'm happy to be in a table. I love chatting with people and connecting with them. And I would, but yes, but I get really excited. You can tell. But yeah, it would be great to know what is the structure of the plan, and then on there, you want to say hi on there. You can say hi. We can like contribute, or like provide feedback or whatever it's needed. We're here. So that's it.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, one, just congratulations on just getting through this. I just can never, like, it just looks wildly different for every single person who jumps in. So it speaks to just how awesome just how resilient you are in general. And secondly, I think you kind of just answered your own question in terms of just like how to have these conversations with others, and not just like when you say, hey, like, make sure you tell 3 people, have them like name those 3 people right to you. That like also like lets them formulate a more specific plan in their mind, right? And holds them accountable to themselves to have that conversation. I think in terms of a couple things, one, in terms of how to get involved, I just dropped our Mobilize link. So everyone here, I would like everyone to, one, just make sure you sign on to our digital petition. It kind of gives us a gut check in terms of like where our support is and isn't at the moment in time. And then secondly, you also have like a sign up to take action link. Being on both of these lists will just ensure that you get all those real-time updates. And then I think in terms of just like the structure of the program, one, making sure for now, get your name and your contact information there, just so, right, nothing slips through the cracks. Everyone is reading from the same sheet of music, so to speak, and everyone knows where to lock in. But I think the structure is that over the next couple of weeks, expect some like messaging trainings to come live, just because there's still a lot of questions about what this is and isn't. So we just want to make sure that, like, for our sake, if people are bringing up any questions to you, right, like we want to proactively respond to that, and we can adjust our messaging to that. I think secondly, once we kind of get through like when maps roll out, then we'll probably have like dialer, like phone banks, also like text banks, where like we can just like where we can just get on the phone or get on our laptop and then just talk to voters. And then frankly, as soon as we have like ballot language and lit, so probably around like mid-February, we want to be on doors. Like, again, we only have 80 days. We don't have a runway to just kind of twiddle our thumbs and think about like a grand plan. We have some data. We know who we need to talk to. We need to consolidate our Democratic base, but there's also communities that we really just want to make sure that we give an extra touch to and make sure that they know when, where, and how they can vote. And then frankly, y'all, if early voting starts in theory, like early March, it's really going to be like a getting out the early vote operation. That's what's going to make or break. We want to make sure that we're in a position to win well before April 21st, right? So we want to make sure that, especially when ballots are being sent out, we're chasing absentee ballots in mail, we're promoting early voting in person, and we know exactly where satellites are and are not. Because like I said, the General Assembly passed money and appropriations to fund this election, and that may or may not mean that all localities have all their satellite locations intact. Could be a skinny version, or it could be just like any other primary or general election. We want to make sure that everyone knows exactly where they can make their voice heard well before April 21st. So it's going to be that kind of cadence. Like, we want to get our messaging down, we want to answer everyone's questions, and then move out into the streets and then also just getting that direct voter contact. What we know in California is that, especially when we emphasize the temporary nature of this, we are clear about the safeguards in place, but also in terms of when we actually do, like I mean, it's not rocket science, I'm preaching to the choir, but field is just not something that we can just kind of let go because we only have so much time. This is going to be an aggressive program. There will be ideally millions of doors knocked. And so I'm looking forward to everyone here being a part of that in some way, shape, or form. And then just doing it again and again through the spring when we get out of the ice sheets that we're all living under right now. Yeah. Mr. Gill, I see your hand raised. Oh, I think you're still on mute.
There we go. Mr. Davenport was my dad. Okay, so no, I'm just Gil. Been reading about Scott Sorovil's work down in the Senate, and he's trying to pass legislation that would basically make this retroactive all the way back several years. Do you see a problem in when it finally reaches the Supreme Court, which is going to? Do you see a problem, with making a law that's retroactive that far back?
Yeah, that's a good question. Because I think I think what you're referring to, right, is talking about the whole procedure of passing a constitutional amendment. Yeah, frankly, I mean, I got a policy degree, not a law degree in Virginia constitutional law. So yeah, and frankly, who knows, right? Just considering our makeup of our courts, like I just don't trust anyone who kind of says they predict the future of like where these cases go. But this is living with the Court of Appeals now, which is what our General Assembly leadership wanted. Yeah, I don't really know if I can give you like a solid take on the retroactive law maneuvering that's going on. Yeah, we're as a yes campaign, at the end of the day, we're focused on getting folks to yes, and then focused on making sure that this election on April 21st is as accessible, transparent, and very clear for all Virginians. Yeah, I don't really have time to think about much else if you want the honest answer, but that's a great question. All right, Madam Chair Calderon, I see your hand raised.
Marta, Marta, you can unmute yourself, Marta.
I think I am. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Well, Jackson, thank you very much for this presentation. It's very helpful. And I think it's the urgency is really something that is moving us to be so curious about all these questions that we're having. A practical question. I went to the link. It says sign the petition. I fill it up and I did. So what is exactly that is happening there? Can you explain to me? Is this going to a document that is putting all our names? Or what is exactly? Just if I have to explain to somebody, they may ask me, what am I doing? What am I really doing?
Yeah, so no, that's a great question. So yeah, so this kind of digital petition, think of it like other kind of digital actions you take online, whether it's like change.org or something else. I think what the goal of this is to project early and widespread support. And I think and also it's a learning exercise for us in terms of if we see like a lot of support in certain kind of buckets of supporters and then we don't see as much movement elsewhere, that informs us on like where we really need to kind of focus our efforts. I think as of now, we've actually almost have 10,000 signatures from Virginians. I've actually cross-checked like all the zip codes that everyone puts in, and all 11 congressional districts are represented. I want to say about 90 out of 133 localities are also represented. So yeah, it's just, again, I think it's a way, it's an exercise for us to make sure that we're able to get this out, and it's like a stress test to make sure that we can project a unified front, but not just in like one corner of Virginia and not just in one congressional district, right? Statewide races, we love it. Like, I love y'all. And they're won or lost in Fairfax, but that's not everything, right? Like, we got to make sure that we're getting this out everywhere, and we also need to make sure that we are making this as accessible for folks. So yeah, it's a way for us to project support in a unified front from the get-go, and then hopefully it's an initial action that can empower folks to kind of take a next step in terms of getting involved to contact voters directly. So whether that's plugging into in-person or virtual events, whether that's town halls, message trainings, text banks, phone banks, canvases, or frankly, if there's a space where you all feel like is absolutely necessary for Virginians for Fair Elections to be, like, I'll drop my email now, you let me know, right? Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And so I'm relying on everyone in this room to make sure that we're holding ourselves accountable to delivering a superior and accessible outreach effort. So yeah, so that's really just the goal. It's a kind of step one of a really exciting and really intense 80 days that we have left.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you. I know it's probably more than you bargained for, but I need to work on concision.
Well, and now you said 10,000, now it's 10,001.
It counts. Hey, I mean, look, every bit counts when you only have 80 days, so I'm taking it. Yeah, Miss Angel, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us today. I just had a quick question. So last week I saw you speak. There was a website, virginiansforfairelections.com, I think. But whenever I've been trying to send it to people, it says this site can't be reached anymore. Was wondering if the website is gone in favor of Mobilize, or if there's a problem with the domain.
Yeah, I'm kind of refreshing it, and it's coming up for me. That's a good flag. I'll let our digital folks know, but
It's
yeah.
virginiansforfairelections.com, right?
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, I tried it on my phone and it says this site can't be reached. Not sure. Let me try clicking this link here.
Oh, it's coming for me.
Okay. I don't know what's wrong with my laptop then, because I just clicked the link in the chat and it still says this site can't be reached.
Why don't you post the link in the chat, and we'll see if we can test it, see if there's a difference between what you're using. Maybe it's a typo.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we'll do it.
Working for me.
Yeah, and that could
Angela,
very well be
okay.
a thing.
Sometimes it's the browser, so you can copy and put it in a different browser to try.
Okay. I'll try that.
Yeah, and can I trouble other folks to try as well?
Yeah, I tried, so it's fine.
Cool.
Both Angel and Jackson's links work for me.
Awesome.
Okay, I have no idea what's happening with my computer, but my phone's doing the same thing. Virginiansforfairelections.com. So far, I can't open up the page because it can't be found. I don't know. That's weird. Well, thank you. I guess it's still there. It's just not working on my technology.
Well, hey, so I just dropped my my contact information in the chat. So just let me know if it's still a thing. And you can text me as well. And then also just, yeah, feel free to hop into the Mobilize links for now as well, just to make sure you get on all of our lists.
Yeah, try using Chrome instead of Safari.
Yeah, I'm using Chrome on my laptop.
Okay.
Same thing. So I don't really know what's happening, but I'm glad nobody.
I can get there, and I'm on using Firefox.
Yeah, I'm on Chrome, so yeah, we'll figure it out. Fernando, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes, thank you. I was surprised to hear you talking about early voting. I thought the voting had to be 90 days after the second passage of the amendment through the legislature, which would not permit early voting. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
The
no, I mean,
referendum
yeah.
must take place 90 days after the second passage, which would mean there would be no early voting unless I'm missing
Oh,
something here.
no, well, yeah, well, that's actually a good. Well, yeah, I think that's also why we have to just like wait for like the actual enabling language to come out. Um, and then we'll actually like get a firm way forward. So yeah, we all just have to keep an eye on the enabling language. But I think also like the original like amendment had passed right when the General Assembly started. Now the appropriations bills to actually like fund a referendum just passed, I want to say today through both chambers. So yeah, I think now we just have to wait for the call to come out.
Jackson, I believe that early voting or any voting period is set by the governor for any election.
Right.
And they are not set in stone. So the governor can set an early vote or an election period 45 days after the legislature meets.
But this is not an election, it is a constitutional referendum.
Okay.
Jackson,
Well,
What's
I-
the date, what's the date of it passing?
No, these are questions that what is it? Well, I guess if you're talking about the amendment itself, it would have been like the first day of when the session gavelled in. But I also think like to Mr. Davenport's point, right? Like you have to recall some of the special elections in Fairfax, right? Like they were operating on all these very asynchronous and kind of staggered timelines. So I think that's also why, again, we just have to wait for the enabling language to actually like figure out, okay, like what is this appropriations actually funding for early vote, and then like what needs to happen for an election date. From what we're hearing from lawmakers and like what's been released, by the pub or through the General Assembly, at least passed through the legislature, we do anticipate the election date being April 21st. But again, appropriations have been set aside to hold the election. So we just have to figure out, is this sort of like a skinny budget? Is this a full sort of comprehensive, like, does it kind of cover any sort of other like early voting? Like, that's just something that we have to wait for the actual language to come out from the governor's office.
Observation, as a district chair, the word that I have received from the Prison Operations Committee is that we should be prepared to start early voting around March 7th. And that's how I am working on. Maybe it's not the 7th, maybe it's whatever, but that is the time frame that I'm preparing for.
Yeah, and I think to Madam Chair's point, regardless of how, I mean, you guys are coming out of quite literally like almost a dozen special elections, and so I don't need to tell you guys, the winners of any type of special election go to the team that stays ready. So when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready, right? And so that's really the impetus of making sure that when I saw Maritza like the other day, she graciously invited someone from the team to hop in. I want to make sure that you guys see my face, you guys have my number, you guys have my email, and we're ready to go. Because when we're not ready, that's when we let these wins slip away, right? You saw it in Candy King. I saw it personally in special elections in Richmond. The teams that stay ready and have their operation in place come out on top almost every time, right? The runway is just too short for us to kind of kick back and kind of just be in a wait and see mindset. So we have to just be prepared for any scenario, whether that's, to Madam Chair's point, or if early voting has to happen in early March, we're going to be ready for it. If it's later than that, we're going to be ready for it, right? Our eyes are on the prize, and that means getting Democrats elected to Congress and making sure that we secure a path to a majority that we pick, that voters pick, not Donald Trump, right? Everything else is just going to be in service to that objective. So yeah. So Mr. Rojas, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Just an observation. I think that from the point of view of messaging, we have to be very careful how we identify ourselves, because Virginians for fairelections.com for many people will sound very similar for Virginians fairelections.org. So you have to be very careful in the way we present. We have to maybe attach a yes somewhere so people clearly identify us as the yes campaign, and the other people who are very similar in name will be the no campaign.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, and I think also, to that point, why getting the ballot language is going to be so important is because we want to make sure that any literature, and especially any translated campaign material that comes out, we want to make sure that it reflects what voters see on the ballot. So, like, if the, should this go forward, like, we want to say, like, vote yes on question 1, right? Like, this ultimately is like the yes campaign on question 1 or Prop A, or however whatever voters will see on the ballot. We just want to make sure that that is reflected on our campaign materials, just to make sure that everyone is on the same page. So completely hear that, and yeah, looking forward to sprinting. Yeah, Fernando, you got a follow-up?
Yeah, are all 4 of the constitutional amendments going to go before the voters on April 21st, or is just this one going to stand alone?
That's a great question. Yeah, so what is it? While the General Assembly passed all 4, the amendments on voting rights, marriage equality, and abortion and reproductive justice are going to be on the November ballot. Redistricting exists on its own timeline. But that's a solid question. Yep, Marisa.
No, I just want to make sure that if anybody has a question, this is the time and this is the moment, since we have you here to fill up all the necessary information that we need to have to make sure that we win this election. So anybody else has another question before we thank Jackson for coming? Well, the good thing is, like, now we have all your information, and we have people that are visiting for different areas. We really appreciate that you're taking the time to let us know about how we can make this happen and how can we support the bill. And I'm sure that we're going to be in contact to make sure that we work together to make this happen. And thank you so much for coming. I want to acknowledge too that Chris Falcon, our clerk of the court, is visiting us today. Hi, Chris. As Margot Horner, the chair of the 8th Congressional District. We have Tim Hudson, the big champion that dramatically changed the Latino vote in Northern Virginia. And we have Evelyn Spain, our new chair for diversity and outreach on Fairfax County. Thank you so much for coming. Any other comments before I continue with our program? Chris, would you like to say some words?
Briefly, Maritza. Jackson, thank you so much for coming and speaking. Such an important topic. And I appreciate the shout outs for all the work that the Fairfax Dems and the Latino Caucus puts in on the special elections. As you know, this is a busy group. Just to put it in perspective, folks, the first month of this year, we have had 2 very consequential special elections already in Fairfax, right? And I was with both individuals yesterday down in Richmond in the morning. That's how important these are, because as you all know, Delegate Bulova was tapped for a secretary position in the cabinet. So Gretchen Bulova is now our delegate for City of Fairfax and portions of Fairfax County. And then Delegate Sickles was tapped for the administration as well. So now we have Garrett McGuire as our delegate, and both I was with yesterday in the morning down in the General Assembly. And then we don't get to catch our breath, because then February 10th, we have another special election for, is it Senator Eben this time? I believe, right? And then March Third, we have another special election in Fairfax County for school board member Rashna Sizemore Heiser. So no rest for the weary here in Fairfax County, but that's all right. We like staying busy. That way we don't have to get ready if you stay ready. I think someone said that earlier. But I also have to jump on and thank Madam Chair, Martha, my friend. Thank you very much for stepping up. I'm sure you all have heard this before, but it's a true story and a true statement that district party chair is the most, if not one of the most, I think the most important position in democratic politics and in organizing. I've seen Martha at work. I've seen what she can do, and Franconia district should be an example to the rest of Fairfax County of what's possible. I live in Mason district, and we have some work to catch up to what you guys are doing in Franconia. So I'll be working with our new district chair to make sure that we are looking at best practices coming out of Franconia, because you have found a way to involve all generations, and it's a diverse group that hits the doors and is a great group to be around. So thank you very much for that work that you're doing, Martha. I will continue to support you with whatever you do. So thank you so much for stepping up. But guys, just very briefly, as your constitutionally elected clerk of the circuit court, I'm entering year 3 of my 8-year term. And I was down in Richmond yesterday for a couple of days, actually, and lobbying for changes to make our court system more accessible, more equitable. You know my issues. I'm not here to run for office. You don't have to hear them all over again. But I want you all to know that the number one issue that I heard talked about in the halls at the General Assembly was not court access. That's what we were pitching. It was the terror that's being perpetrated on Latinos in the United States of America right now. And that's what people wanted to talk about. And I could not stand more firmly in support of my friend, Senator Saddam Salim, for the bills that he put forward yesterday in the General Assembly to end cooperation with ICE. ICE has no place being in our courthouses in the United States, in Fairfax County. Their sole purpose is to sow fear in people in this county and in this country. So I'm proud to stand behind my friend. Proud to be here with you all. We have a lot of work to do, folks. So I know holidays are past us, but put us to work, Jackson. We'll be there for you. But couldn't be prouder to be here with you all, and also to be here to support my friend Maritza. This is an important group that you've gotten us together. Thank you for hosting us over the holidays. That was a wonderful time we had at your home. But I know it's a lot of work, but it's got to be done. If we want this to be the country that we want to be able to raise our kids in and talk about one day, a long time from now, how we got through that very dark period in American history, it's going to take all of us to roll up our sleeves. But happy to see you guys. Thank you.
Grace, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for your kind words. And we're so happy that you got the time and you were able to join us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have almost all 5 minutes to the end of the meeting. I just gonna go a little fast with the things that we just need to talk, but I feel really bad that we didn't have the opportunity to have introduced ourselves. So everybody that is visiting us today, we're able to say thank you, Margot, for taking the time to come in and be with us as Evelyn Spain, our new chair for diversity. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to jump to old business. And so we would like for you to stay with us for a happy hour when we finish the meeting so we can have an extra time to chat. So that way we don't take anybody's time. Thank you. So do we have any old business to discuss that we know? Okay, and new businesses? I want to remind everybody that the next month on February 28th, we're going to be reorganizing the Latino Caucus. So I invite you to join us. And if there's any special position that you would like to participate and join us, we will be happy to have you. So please watch your calendar and your email. So we're going to be sending the information for you to participate. And
one moment, it's
yes,
February 26th.
26th. Thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
My 6 looks like a 9 too late.
Okay. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you, Marta. Hey, Margot, how are you?
Yes, I'm doing fine. Listen, remember the other night when we were talking about the whistles?
Yes.
I wanted to tell you, I have one that I wear around when I'm walking in my community in Fairlington, and this is a little booklet that came with it.
Oh.
And it's just in essence, the theme is together we keep our community safe, form a crowd, stay loud. And this was a nice little piece that I picked up in one of what I call my little libraries in the community.
Oh.
When I say little library, it's like a little birdhouse, and they have books in there, and people stick other stuff in there, political stuff, etc. Sometimes even food. But this came in a little package like this. And I just wanted to let you and Gil know.
Thank you so much, Margot. Maybe we can have a copy. Maybe we can do something like
I just
that.
want, yeah, that's what I was just trying to think, trying to help y'all.
Thank you so much, Margot. We really appreciate it. We really want to come up with something. Actually, just actually 1 or 2 days before the reorganization, we were like hoping that we would get the whistles, but we were not prepared to give the whole fact because we haven't seen anything to relate to. But this is wonderful, Margot.
And also, too, it came assembled so that you could put it right around your neck right away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much, Margot. We really appreciate that you take the time to come and join us.
Oh, this was fabulous. I love the music, too. I'd heard it earlier this morning, but thank you, Gil.
Thank you so much. Anything from anybody else? No? Well, I'm just gonna adjourn the meeting, and please stay with us for a happy hour. So get your refreshments. Gil is gonna play the video again while you go grab something to drink, and then we can have an open mic so everybody can.
Jackson, thank you very much. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Are you kidding? No, thank you guys. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe on this happy hour. I'm gonna get some food, but I will see you guys soon.
Thank you so much,
Thank you so-
Jackson.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye. You always support everything that the Latino Caucus do. And Omar, would you introduce yourself? We're gonna need Fernando to introduce yourself and Cecilia too, but we don't have the time. I'm so sorry. But Omar, will you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, my name's Omar Zavala Ferreira. I am here representing the Sully district with our current chair, Liz Walker. So I'm new to all of this. I just decided I couldn't sit on the sidelines anymore, so I decided to join up and see what I could do to help. Mi español no está muy bueno, soy cubano y en realidad no me da mucha oportunidad de practicar porque mi familia vive in Fort Lauderdale y Miami. But yeah, so I'm here and hopefully I can practice my Spanish with you all.
Well, we're very happy that you can do that because we would love you to join us and practice your Spanish and work with us together. Thank you. Fernando, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi. Hi, I'm Fernando Rondon, although I usually use my middle name, Mark. Live in Mason District, have in recent years been doing a lot of volunteer work for the Democratic Party, various congressional campaigns, did a lot of stuff for Spanberger's campaign, not typically through the local Democratic Party, usually directly with the electoral campaigns. So running canvassing, running phone banks, running text banks, and the like. And I've been very concerned that this constitutional referendum, we're 90 days from going to the people, and we're still waiting for language, and we're still waiting for bills. And California took months and tens of millions of dollars by this point. We're way, way, way behind this curve. But on the other hand, the Republicans seem to be worse. So the only thing that is consoling me about how far behind the Democratic Party has